Hi everybody. Today we bring on our short list of interviews a very important person in our experience in these months, in these years, hopefully in Pcuppers, which is our CTO. His name is Swed. He sits in Tel Aviv now. He's talking from Tel Aviv to us, and he will go over with us to some of the most exciting things that we do about the software. So how we design, produce, and test our product, which is very complex and very exciting. And plus, he has a lot of stories and a lot of expertise to share with us, but today also with you all. So, Shalom Eli.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
Very good.
Amazing. So first of all, who is Eli? If you want to tell our audience what's your experience, what's your career, what's your life in a very short sentence.
Actually, I've been spending most of my life in early stage startups, in the same stage that Pcuppers is now, like building the first steps of the long way, sometimes with secret success. I'm sure that also is.
And I know that you do it both as a CTO, so overviewing all the technical side and the software development, but as an entrepreneur, as yourself, like you do like to run startups and to build them also on the business side. And that's a thing that you keep doing. I know that you're running now a new project, which is very cool.
Yeah, we're keeping, we are a startup program. Tel Aviv Generator, we'll talk about it later, but the reason that we're working with other startups is very much also to have our own startups all the time.
It's challenging. A lot of people give up after a while. Like they try to help or to run their own startup, and then they give up. Why don't you? Why don't you go with big corporates that can pay well, that will not fail, and will give you sheket? You say
peace and quiet.
Peace and quiet, yeah.
Check it. No, you're very right. It's very hard and demanding life, and you're actually working most of the times with ventures that do not succeed, because that's what's the meaning of early stage. But it's also very exciting because we keep doing new things all the time. Right now, I'm involved in a few startups, my own and others. Maybe the main one is Pcuppers, because you're in a more mature stage at most of our projects, so you can understand how early we usually work.
We're almost too old for you.
Actually, yes, you're older than most of the startups that Tel Aviv Generator is handling. And it's always new things, the pivots, the changes, the first product, the fact that the idea becomes reality. It's very exciting. But yes, as a career, it's a non-financially, unless you're involved in an exit, financially it's very unrewarding. Comparing to other options.
Do you perceive that the culture, the entrepreneurial culture in Israel is still on the good wave, like it's always growing, this idea of building new stuff? Or it's kind of, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that the main motive is greed. After the huge exits that we've experienced, Israel has a higher exit per capita than any other country in the world, like 2 or 3 times better than the country after it. And it's tempted that, of course, there are many people that are having like the mission and the vision and they're doing it for this, but the business part, it became a real business. It's really an industry, because besides the exit, there are many jobs and many side jobs and consulting jobs. So it's really
it's an ecosystem.
Yes, it's an ecosystem very similar to the Silicon Valley, and it keeps growing.
That's, I think, what a lot of people, a lot of companies, and a lot of institutions in Italy are trying to build also. They kind of copy paste some of the models that are running already in Israel since a lot of years ago. It's tough. Like it's a complex ecosystem. It's hard to build it from scratch.
I must tell you that in Israel in the 70s and 80s, the government took a critical part in the development of this market by supporting the venture capital funds and many Americans. There were not any Israeli venture capitals, now there are. And to draw them to Israel, they did a lot of effort, gave tax benefits and many other things. And it's this and security the industry in Israel were two main reasons. And I do think that it can be copied, duplicated, but it's, all the time they're only trying to copy the atmosphere, as you just said. It needs a lot of budget, and I'm sure that if Italy or any other country, any developed country would put so much effort as Israel did, there will be results.
Yeah, on some respects, I think Italians are quite similar to Israelis in the sense that we are creative. Like they're both southern people that have ideas.
That's why I like
how you execute ideas is quite different in the two countries.
The atmosphere in Israel, you know it because you've been in the atmosphere is very similar. It's very close. They're very similar countries, and this is the reason what I'm saying. It's mainly a matter of contact, focus. Italy is an industrial country, unlike Israel. We don't have a huge industrial companies. We do have early stage and middle stage. We don't even have large technological companies. We don't have any Google here or Nokia or something like this.
So after the exit, they go out. Basically, they escape abroad. They go to the US, basically.
Yes. They keep their development here. We have development centers for Apple, Google, IBM, or whatever, any large company in the world. In many cases, the main development, the core feature, Intel is developing its best processors in Israel. But the companies are not Israeli, and I don't think. I think it's a way. It's a way to run an economy by being like the laboratory or the incubator of the world, and not like the industrial.
Yeah, in a sense, actually, it generates a situation in which if you are inside the community of these developer in that industry, you're very well positioned. But on the other hand, like there is no sharing of the job opportunities and the economical benefits that all this industry is giving. So it's really localized in a very few people in a very few areas of the country.
In Israel?
In Israel, I mean.
Yes, but the country is so small. The country is like a large city in the United States. I've been, of course, to the United States many times in this context, and it seems that the way of living of the high-tech community here is much more relaxed than New York, not to mention the Silicon Valley.
Oh, really?
I'm not talking about young startups. Young startup people are committed because they want, they want for themselves, but if you're working, the lifestyle they keep complaining all the time when they compare them to people that are not in the high tech, the other are working harder.
Interesting. Actually, this brings me to another issue, which is quite interesting that you mentioned once to me. And it's about the job of coding, like of development. You mentioned something, a very interesting concept, but to your ideas, it is kind of one of the last craftsmanships in the world, like which is handmade. Really, if you can elaborate on this concept, which is really for me was very interesting.
It's like a medical thing. You have to start even the terms. First of all, you have to study, and you can study in the university or in an outside course. I'm not talking about people that learn themselves and became like natural developers. This is not the case. And then after you graduate, you start working, and you're a junior. And as a junior, you actually not code. You don't code. I don't even know the name in English. It's like the person that works with, I don't remember, works with a silver spit or something that, he learns how to work. They're not
apprentice. The apprentice.
Exactly. For years, they don't do any production. What they do is going to the trash. They're just helping and studying. And then when they become experts or masters, and then there are terms, junior, middle, senior.
Senior, right.
And when you become a senior or a master, you not only know how to develop, but you have, as in those craftsmanship, you have your own style. And it's people can see that you developed it, because it's written in a way, it can be done in many ways, like craftsmanship. And they are elegant and non-elegant, and quick and slow and high quality, and it's like exactly like tailors or carpenters.
And I think that is really interesting because at least in Italy, that compared at least to my experience in Israel, it's much less digital culture. So people are not really accustomed with this kind of atmosphere. Most people think about coding as the coldest thing, as the most serialized and standardized procedure. Indeed, actually, there is a lot of creativity and a lot of art in a sense, craftsmanship and a personal touch. now that we work a lot on our product, I can see that actually it is a human, it's a soft skill in a sense. It's a humanities rather than science in under many respects.
In many respects. By the way, I hate it. I think that in the very near future, and it would have happened again, that's the same as with the gears of the craftsmanship. There are many people that don't want it because they're getting paid extremely well. In Israel, they're passing 100,000 shekels a month. It's 20,000 euro per month for a developer, not a manager. A person that actually codes gets over 20,000 euro a month.
He's a guru, like he's the
no. He's 26-year-old. He's 26-year-old, but he's very good. Just like an excellent someone that that can you do haute couture, but the best in the world. So you can trade. And there's nowhere. It's not necessary for 90% of the task that can be done like any other thing in the world. Highly. They become like when you plan or design a chip. It's much more industrialized than coding. The more structured, and I'm sure that of course the artist will remain to develop the
concept and the strategy and
the concept and the operating system and the coding and encoding and decoding and all these things and the network protocols. There are things that demand creativity, but something like Pcup ideally should have been done. Most of it should have been done in a much faster way than the process that you've seen, because Pcup is a very complicated system. It really takes many months of experts to build and rebuild and try and see if it works. And on one hand, it's very nice, and the process, even though it's frustrating about the time, but it's nice because of this creativity.
Yeah, of course, it gives it a flavor of authenticity, and in a sense, it is satisfying because you overcome a lot of challenges. But I know that you dedicated a lot of time, many years, in actually cracking down this problem of how to build stuff simple. And I know you have beautiful projects that already exist in place, and
it's a good example. We have a project that makes a large portion of the development. The backend, the server, simplifies it dramatically, and we could not get a market for it because, again, I believe someone will do it, but it will be someone strong enough to face the resistance of the market, because you can't come to a backend developer and say, look, what you're doing in a month can be done in 2 days. He won't like it. He'll hate it. It's like showing a sewing machine to a tailor. It's not something that he wants to see or wants to do.
So we can make a call to action for whoever has the power and the lobbying power to break down this block. Reach out to Eli because he has a very cool product already developed, already tested, and we all know it. It's very exciting.
I hope that it will not by me, but by someone it will be done for sure. And then there will be many more startups.
Yeah, of course. That's actually this is an incredible barrier to begin with as a digital startup. Of course, there are startups which are not digital, but for example, in our experience, we had a very terrible first year in development before we met you, because we got it all wrong, like in terms of where to start, how to design, how to choose the people, and how to keep the process going without making too many mistakes, because all the time we do mistakes, but you try not to do them twice. And I think this is very interesting about the method that you have in TLV Generator. Like I'm fond of the prototyping process that we put in every single step of our process. And I think also this is worth sharing with the audience. Like, how do you work in TLV Generation? That is really interesting.
First of all, it's something that we do, but it's a concept that I've seen in the past. Every time I've seen it happen, and it's not happening systematically, it works beautifully. So we made it into a system in TLV Generator, which means that there's a very fashionable term in development. It's called agile. Agile means that I'm building my project and I'm changing it. I'm not working in versions. I'm just changing it on the go. The version is actually what is live, what is the actual apps that people are using, but I keep changing it all the time. This is a very, very demanding in terms of development effort. So people are, when they don't have enough resources, they're working in versions. So I say, okay, now I'm going to do the next version will include this new feature, and it will be ready in 6 weeks, which is nice. But first of all, it's never ready because people are starting to do other things in the middle. Secondly, when it is ready to the view of the developers, it's never ready to the view of the marketing, because the developer is saying, okay, everything in the specs is done. You can check, one is working, two is working, okay, but the whole thing doesn't work at all because some screen is now not connected to the other screen. You didn't know. So what we do in Digitale from the first stage of development and then for each version is build what we call a prototype. And actually it's called prototype in technical terms, but it's actually a mock-up. It's an imitation, a graphical imitation or a representation of the application that looks exactly like the apps. The buttons are working, the screens are changing, everything looks as it should work, and it includes the new features that we want for this version. And then, first of all, it's much, much clearer than any text. The developers don't read the specs, they never read.
And here there is always an ambiguity, semantically speaking, like you never understand each other, even if you want to explain by text the best you can.
The only person that reads it is the head developer, is the team leader, and then he gives them tasks. And so the developer never sees the product. The team leader doesn't understand it. As you said, there are always unclear things in it. But when you have the prototype, you give it to the head developer. He gives it to the developer. Says, okay, this is what we're doing now. It should work like this. And then if you want to test the flow, you go screen by screen, as you did in the prototype, and someone in the development has missed and the screen does not change, you will see it before delivery or right after delivery. It makes the process much, much more efficient in ridiculously low effort. We're spending maybe 2 days more to create the prototype and save 2 weeks in the development.
And actually, this is exactly what happened to us. We started developing with the previous company without having this step done, and it generates a mess. And so actually starting to work with you, and in every single feature, doing a mock-up before we go, or a prototype, it saves so much mistakes. And actually, I think in most of cases, the real cost, the major cost in developing such a product, such complex products, is not the coding itself, but it's getting it wrong. To code something, then you have to rewrite because you didn't think it very well in the first place. And this is incredible how much money and time this can, and energies and stress this can burn. So I'm very glad that now every day before we always work with these kind of prototypes. Another cool thing that actually, as we mentioned, maybe before you have great experience on is backend. And one of the most revealing inputs that you brought to our company is to think already in terms of public APIs for Pcuppers. And it is something that we're already ready to sell and people want to buy. So it was a very, very smart understanding of our market, even if you are in another country and you never saw a Pcuppers cup even. Again, like I think it would be interesting to tell about what is public APIs and why is interesting. Why is important?
First of all, the server or the backend is the brain of any system. Basically, what you have on the app, on any app, Facebook app, or whatever apps that you have on your machine, on your device, is something that calls the server, gets results to the server, and show it to you. Meaning that if I'm choosing a drink on pickup, the app, all it does, it sends this demand to the server. The server makes the order, answers your phone that the order was done, and then the phone shows the screen that saying that the order was received. So actually, if I have this brain, I can connect also another apps to the same To the same logic, meaning that if I'm selling now, let's say that I'm not selling drinks and cups, let's give a close example. I'm selling plates and food. There's another startup, another company that wants to sell plates and food in the same way that you're doing, like the plate has an NFC and it reads the plate and charges the plate, exactly the same. You can tell them, okay, connect to our API. Connect to our backend. And to connect to the backend, what also the Pcuppers, any app, connects to the backend through something that's called API, Application Programming Interface, which is actually the port. It's something that you ask it things and it replies. Say, I'm in this location. Okay, those are the bars around your location. I've ordered a drink. Okay, this is your confirmation. And on the other hand, it can push information. It can say, okay, now everybody, I'm going to show you a push notification. This is Valentine's Day. Don't forget to get a drink to your beloved one. And this API, which is built originally for Pcup, can be published as a public API. So we have to make it easier to use because it's not the same developers as with Pcup that are doing the backend and the frontend of the same one, but other developers. Make it easier to use. Give it good documentation. Give it good security so that people that are using it can get the information about their clients and their client will be kept secret, etc. And this way you actually double or you can sometimes multiply by a large number your ability to gain customers because
you know how incredible was the coronavirus situation in Italy, which is an absolutely non-digital culture in terms, specifically in terms of payments. You know how important now is that we have such a possibility because a lot of companies are actually asking to have this kind of access, and we are basically there to already there ready to give it to them. So in this sense, coronavirus for us was quite interesting because it brought to the light a lot of things that you, as a CTO, in the very beginning realized that were important, and now all the market is actually realizing it. Our small market, of course, but again, it was very intelligent decision to work in that direction since the first day.
Pcup is a technology. It's a technology that is not limited to cups and it's not limited to drinks. It's a technology of ordering and receiving things, whatever the thing is, and preferably using some sort of hardware, but even this is not essential.
Not necessary.
It can be done without.
Beautiful.
Tel Aviv Generator is a startup program that is working in Tel Aviv, Israel, but we have startups, as you see, in Italy and in the United States and in China, and most of them in Israel. We have like about 8 startups at any given time. And unlike any other startup programs that we know, we supply the startups. First of all, we build the prototype and the beginning to demonstrate the new idea, and then we can, as we do with Pcup, develop the new idea because we have our own development. And among those startups, there are many startups that we're doing, as I said, for other companies, for other entrepreneurs. Those are the startups that we're doing for ourselves. One of those is called Paymore, and it's going to be introduced in Tel Aviv, I hope, within 2-3 weeks. And this is sort of a marketplace without charging, but it gives people the ability, it makes, we like to say that it makes the city into a small village. It gives people the ability to sell and buy things from their home to their neighbors, like some food or small services like cleaning, babysitting. But this, it's very similar. It's like a Craigslist, but in a very local, app-based thing. Everything disappeared after a few hours. It's like we're trying to see if the behavior exists, and we don't charge there, but we have, but we do have everything but charge. Meaning the people can order. We have, they have the things that they're going to sell, and people can buy, and they just get the order through a text message, and it works. This is another project which is we're doing now. It's actually we did it ourselves. We did it like in 2004 or 5. We have one of the very first startups that I was involved in was it's called Heke, and it was in Israel. We have this thing with the Palestinian territories. Anyway, even in these situations, there's one thing that's clear: they have amazing food, amazing. much better than in Israel. Really like in the countryside of Italy. They're very old-fashioned, and they have excellent cheese and vegetables, and cakes and bread, and all this kind of oil. One of the best oil in the world, really, olive oil. So we made the startup that we did called Hacker. It was supported by many peace organizations. The idea was to buy food from the Palestinian territories and sell it in Israel for people in Israel. And it didn't work for many reasons. It was long. It's also in the middle of one of the largest wars.
Yeah, it actually 2004, 2005 was
really, really hard. Anyway, I'm glad to say that one of the new project of the generators, like of last month during the Corona, someone came and gave me virtually the same idea, only the concept. The first, we also wanted to sell all kinds of things between Israel and Palestine, and we started with food. So he wants to start with workers because there are many people working from Palestine in Israel. And there is no something. So we're building a platform, which is, again, it's not like Pcuppers, but it's similar because you don't order a drink, but you say, I need this people, and those people are saying this, and the system allows payment, it allows,
well, we have it in Italy. In Italy, it's a beautiful system. It's called the Pronto Pro. I mean, it's commercial, but everybody knows it, and it's working well. Like you can tell what you need as a private or as a company, what you need, what kind of job you need, and people can reply and say, hey, I can do it, that's my price. So it's kind of this idea.
Yes, but the difference will be that, again, it's two countries, so it's actually two apps. One of them is
in Arabic,
yeah. And it's on the phone, and it's built, there should be people that are hardly technological also, because many people are doing very simple labor, not all of them.
Right.
That to be very simple. On the other hand, for the employees, it has to be very B2B.
Interesting. Well, a marketplace for job opportunities between Israel and Palestine. Wow. Nice.
And then, as we wanted with Hacker, they also want to do it. There is a lot of potential, and here I'm talking about it all the time, more than another thing, because I really like it. This is the reason I did it. It's I think that besides being a good business, it's the more businesses like this, the easier it will be to get to a solution. More people will work together, it will be.
Yeah, I imagine that you always face, like in every country, like different political barriers, no? When you try to do something which is politically disputable, so it could be understood as right or wing or right or left, then of course you will find frictions.
I'll tell you, but in this aspect, even the right wing in Israel, even the right wings in Palestine, the Palestine territory, it's not Palestine, it will be. They are very, the thing of the work, everyone wants it. It's the only thing that brings them money. And even the right people here know that we must have these people to work, because not must, but it's something, instead of this, you should get people from Thailand or something like this. So it makes sense to everyone, regardless of political views, unlike the food. The food was, so say, what do you need their food? And say, why will you sell your food? And that happened. But in work, it's actually...
No, but actually, I remember one of the most accurate, I think, I would say, anecdote or ideas that I got when I was living in Jerusalem is from one of my previous roommates. He said, look, peace you do with business. And actually, at least for Jews and Arabs, is for sure true. For Italians, maybe less food works better, but for Jews and Arab, business is always making people happy, if it's a good business, of course.
Sure, for them, I'm positive. Someone that works is less angry. There's no way to, and someone that works with Palestinian cannot hate them. Because they're really nice people, when all Jews and the Palestinians are really nice people. Everyone would say
also everybody who traveled there knows.
They're very sociable, and very nice, Really, it's very similar. That's why I like Italy. Because the Italians are not only like the Israelis, also like the Arabs. It's the same atmosphere, the same Mediterranean atmosphere. People are shouting and eating and drinking
and working hard, like dedicated. Yeah, it's true.
Yes. Enthusiastic. They're not cold. They're hot. They're warm.
And you see that difference while working, for example, with other cultures like Americans. Are they quite different in terms of how they interact?
Very much. with Americans, with the whole atmosphere. I'm talking about not Israeli Americans, but real Americans, especially in the Valley. It's very different. And I must tell you, we had once a Japanese startup in the very beginning of the generator, and he was very unhappy. And we swore that we'll never work with Japanese people anymore because their expectation from someone that worked with them was very different from anyone else in the world. It was something like he expected that we will be committed to his startup more than himself, and that he was calling me at night, and it was very. I'm not talking only about being demanding. We had demanding clients, but I think that when
yeah, but I stop at 10 o'clock in the night, I stop. I never call you on Shabbat and after 10 o'clock.
I'm not talking about, a demanding client is all right, and we had American and Israelis and everyone, but I think that his expectation, he was surprised. He expected it. We were also the first, he just came from Japan and tried to work in Israel. We're the first Israel that he worked with. And so, again, from what we ended up happily, everything was fine. But I think that when he works with another Japanese, there's a whole difference. And I think that's the worst case of cultural difference, because we gave him anything that he wanted. We didn't have any dispute about the delivery. He didn't like the sense of duty and commitment that we radiated, something like this. It was very strict.
And actually, you're a very committed team, all of you, like from the project, as a CTO, the project managers, Ariela, the team, everybody's super committed, but for Japanese, it was not enough.
Not enough. It's not, in the quality sense, it's not what he expected. It's not enough time or not enough, it's not, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it, but
incredible.
I really realize that he's disappointed every time that he speaks with us. So
interesting. No, and also I think might be for what I don't know any Japanese actually, but I imagine that it could be challenging for such a strict culture to work in an environment which is so unstable. So as a startup, as you well know, and you teach me very well, like whenever you do something new, research and development, you cannot expect exactly what is going to happen. Like you can expect something to be very, very hard and then do it in a chick-chack, like in 2 hours. And some other thing that you expect it to be so easy, then it takes a month. And this, for me, as you know, it's frustrating, but there is no other way to do stuff.
Actually, there is a word for it in Japanese. It's called, I don't know if I pronounce it right, Kaizen. Kaizen means that the last parts of the job, bringing it to be what it should be, it's most of the work and it's the hardest part of the work.
Beautiful meaning.
You should take most pride in, like finishing it. And in software, it's for sure, it's 80% of the work is the
To imagine that ends, for example, as we know now in our product. What if this specific weird logic happens? How do we behave in terms of front end? Like, you mean that part of fine tuning?
Must be perfect, and if it's until it's from the finished working to perfect, it's more than 50%. I really think maybe 80%, but more than 50% for sure. From the point that the product is working to the point that it
is perfect as you want it to be.
Yes.
Production level. Well, what to say? I hope really that in the next years the Italian culture will also try to play and bring the Italianity that we have in this specific area. I think we will be great, like a great product developers, not only in terms of shoes and clothes and food, but also code. But as you know, this culture is laying back a little bit as compared to Israel or the US. Hopefully.
That's the reason we're trying to open a generator in Rome. We tried it before the corona and we even had partners, but now everything got delayed. But I hope that in a few months or the next year we will have it.
For sure, now there is a strong need for the market solutions in terms of digital, and maybe this will bring a cultural change, a massive cultural change in terms of let's use apps. Soon.
Personally, there's nothing that makes you more happy. The that can work in Italy, and as I said, it's the country that I like the most. So it's
EasyJet is cheap now, so really 3 hours a flight, and we're at Tel Aviv, Rome. It's good. Good, Eli. So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing all these expertise and ideas, which I'm sure that everybody will appreciate. And we'll keep working in the next days as usual.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.